right, one more minute and we'll just kick it off. All right, I think we can just officially call this a webinar now. So first of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for making the time on such short notice to join the first webinar for our data marketplace. So what we'll present to you today is we'll give you a quick dive into IOTA Tangle itself, and then an explanation of what the IOTA Foundation is, its purpose, and most importantly, the focus will be on the data marketplace itself. So this will be about the business side of the data marketplace, mostly focused around this co-innovation and this collaboration between corporates, startups, and government entities, focused on the business models based on distributed ledger technologies. And secondly, the second half of this webinar will be focused on the technical aspects of the data marketplace and of mass authenticated messaging, which is kind of one of the key protocols and modules behind the data marketplace. So the way this webinar works is that it's fully recorded. So if you have to jump out during the meeting or you want to jump in, just feel free to do so, because we'll share the YouTube link with you afterwards, and then you can also share this internally with your team members. So let's get started. So obviously the main thing that brings all of us together here is this experimentation and development of the IOTA Tangle. And the IOTA Tangle is this new distributed ledger that the IOTA core team and the IOTA Foundation has been developing over the last 2 years. And the main focus with the IOTA Tangle is obviously the Internet of Things, and to develop a new distributed ledger architecture that is actually scalable, that has no transaction fees, and that is able to work with these machine-to-machine interactions. So the main features of the IOTA Tangle are two. So for one, what we can do with the IOTA Tangle are those machine-to-machine payments, where we transfer a token from one machine to another, and also all of that is completely feeless, because we don't have to subsidize any miners in our distributed ledger and in our consensus mechanism. And the second component of the IOTA Tangle is this data security. So the unique component of IOTA is that it's the first distributed ledger protocol that is permissionless and that you can utilize without owning a token. So anything that is related to data security, data integrity, fits perfectly into the realm of IOTA. And the data marketplace is basically built on these two features of the IOTA Tangle: machine-to-machine payments and data security. So the main thing that is actually bringing all of us together today is the IOTA Foundation. So over the last 11 months, the founders of IOTA, together with several law firms, have been working on setting up a non-profit foundation in Germany. Because what we really want to do is we want to, for one, further develop and standardize distributed ledger protocols, because this standardization is truly required to make this space actually production ready. And secondly, what we really want to do and achieve with the IOTA Foundation is to bring all of these different stakeholders together on different projects and different use cases, case studies, to collaborate and to co-innovate and to basically share with each other the learning experience that we've gained over the years to move away from just doing proof of concepts towards production-ready applications. Because at the end of the day, the biggest interest of all of us is to truly have applications and business models that are actually earning money.
By the way, Dominic, put it on presentation mode, so it's full screen.
Well, yeah, but I have to switch afterwards, so it's easier like that. You can probably, yeah, let me just do it. Exactly. And the IOTA Foundation is right now in the final steps of registration. So it will probably be set up within the next 4 weeks. And we invite all of you to participate in the IOTA Foundation, as we are right now setting up this whole governance structure. What the fuck happened? Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah. but you went out of the slides. Okay, we're back now.
Yeah, but it's weird. And so the purpose of the foundation, as mentioned before, is we want to do research. So this is mostly focused on research for new cryptographic ciphers, for new distributed ledger protocols, but it's also focused on research on new applications that can be built on top of distributed ledgers. So it's really about experimentation on protocols, but also on ecosystem applications. And for another, we also do development. So this is mostly focused on protocol development, but we also help facilitate some of these proof of concepts like we've done right now with the data marketplace, like we've done with Satoshi Pay, which I'm going to showcase you afterwards. And we will continue to do that in the future to basically accelerate the innovation between corporates and between different entities. And most importantly, what we also want to achieve with the foundation is to truly push the education forward, because what's missing in this space right now is there's just too few experts. And we really need to educate developers, but also business people of the advantages and the disadvantages of distributed ledgers so that you have a clear picture of what works and what doesn't. And lastly, what we are really focused on is the standardization. So we have set up several partnerships where we are already now working on standardizing the IOTA protocol. So this is not just taxonomy work, but this is really standardization of the core protocols. So the main thing that really brings all of us together today is this opportunity to co-innovate on this data marketplace. So we always argue that one of the main things that's really holding back this entire blockchain space is that everyone does their own thing. So everyone does their own thing, but they don't really share their experiences, their learnings, and their do's and don'ts with other corporates and with other partners. So what we want to facilitate with the IOTA Foundation is to basically have a collaborative environment where we bring together all of these different stakeholders to work together on specific problem sets. And through the problem solving, we gain a lot of learning experience. And that learning experience should be shared with others to accelerate and further improve this entire space to make it production ready. Because as I mentioned before, we want to have business models, we want to have applications that actually earn money on top of a distributed ledger, or based on a distributed ledger. But right now, we're simply not there yet because nobody's really fostering this collaboration. And with the IOTA Foundation, we truly want to achieve this. And the first opportunity that we offer to corporates, startups, and to governments to co-innovate is for this data marketplace that we're setting up. And to give you a high-level overview of the data marketplace, it's a pretty simple concept. So basically what we enable you to do is you set up a sensor, and with that sensor, you're basically selling data. So the sensor is continuously accumulating data. The data is then input into the IOTA Tangle, and from there it's then being offered on the data marketplace to be bought by other partners. So initially, this is a proof of concept. Just so you know, this is not a flashed out data marketplace. The main goal that we really want to achieve with this data marketplace initially is to be a public demonstration where anyone can participate, learn more about the concept itself, and to basically start learning more about the IOTA Tangle and also about new micropayment business models that can be built on top of such a structure. So the IOTA team that is responsible for the data marketplace is me. It's Paul Handy, who is going to present mass authenticated messaging afterwards. And there's Lewis, and Lewis is going to present to you the data marketplace itself. And Wilfred is going to give you an overview on the business side of things. So what do we want to achieve with this data marketplace? So as you probably know, we are not just technologists. So we really want to focus on pushing this entire space forward as a whole and make it bigger. So the first thing that we really want to achieve with this data marketplace is thought leadership, because we are truly positioning ourselves as with the foundation at the forefront of the Internet of Things and at the forefront of this whole machine economy. And with this data marketplace, there's so much opportunity that goes beyond just a single industry, because it can be really applied cross-sector, cross-industry, and also cross corporates. Secondly, what we really want to facilitate with this data marketplace is the collaboration. As you all know, so right now we have more than 50 participants just in this webinar. So that truly shows the interest of all of the different parties to work together and to learn as well. Thirdly, what we want to experiment is new business models. as mentioned before, nobody in this blockchain space right now is making money, right? The only ones that make money are the consultants. And as such, there's a lot of interest to participate and to collaborate on new experimentations for business models. And this data marketplace is one of the first examples where we really want to showcase and further their thinking when it comes to micropayments, because micropayments are really going to be the future of the Internet of Things, of mobility, and of this whole machine economy. And so far, nobody has really done any specific case study or any experimentation around micropayment business models. So we are really the first ones to achieve that. Another main reason why we are all here together is because there's a lot of interest to experiment around IOTA, the IOTA technology. So with IOTA, as you know, we've truly built a completely new distributed ledger architecture specifically for the Internet of Things. So there's a lot of interest to now start participating in concrete proof of concepts and applications to fully understand how IOTA works, the potential and also the limitations, to figure out how it can really be integrated into your own businesses and your own applications that you can then build on your own. And lastly, this will also be the first public proof of concept demonstration. So to give you an example of what we've done previously when it comes to public demonstrations, yesterday we just launched a Satoshi Pay demonstration. So what we mostly want to facilitate is to really build public demonstrations where people can go to and basically try out these different demos. So for one, this acts as a learning experience so that people can understand the limitations and the potential of the technology. And secondly, it also acts as a further proof to legitimize the ideas and the assumptions behind these proof of concepts. So the Satoshi Pay use case just went live yesterday, and I think so far several thousand people have already tried it out. That just shows the interest that is offered by the IOTA community itself, but also the wider community in this blockchain space. Another example is the Flash demo that they've also launched, I think, 3 weeks ago. And another one is this audit trail demo, where we wanted to showcase how masked authenticated messaging can give machines in a factory floor a secure audit trail. So if you want to try out all of these demos, you can just visit the web link and you can try it out. Let me go back. So let's look at the timeline. So today is the 17th of October. So today is kind of the official kickoff of the data marketplace. So over the next few days, we are going to send you a concrete introduction and concrete documentation on how to participate in the data marketplace by setting up a sensor. So when it comes to participating in the data marketplace itself, it's incredibly simple. So there's not much work required from you or your developer team to participate. We're going to provide you all of the necessary modules that are then going to encrypt the data, input into the IOTA Tangle, and then sell it on the data marketplace. So over the next few days, and we're going to make this onboarding possible for corporates until November, because obviously as we are going to launch the proof of concept next week publicly, there's going to be a lot of interest for more corporates to participate. And we give them the ability to just join afterwards as well, and we're going to onboard them. And so the official kickoff of the data marketplace will be on the 26th of October. So next week, we're going to publish the website, the public demo, and we're also going to release a press release where we're going to showcase what we want to achieve with the data marketplace, and most importantly, also redirect users to the data marketplace itself so they can really try it out and buy data directly from the sensors. God damn it. I think every time someone leaves, it just drops out or something. It's a bit weird. Oh, fuck it. Sorry about that. I'll just do it like that now. Exactly. So the second webinar of the data marketplace will be on the 10th. So this will be around a week after the official kickoff. What we want to do in the second webinar, we want to give you a quick overview of what has been happening on the website so far, the basic activity, what people have really done on the website, the amount of data that was bought, and so on and so forth. So the second webinar will not be technical. It will really be focused on the current statistics and the activity that we've seen on the website. And we will send all of you an invite to that webinar soon. And the closing of the proof of concept of the data marketplace is proof of concept for nearly 2 months, because we really want to make it possible for anyone that is out there to participate and just try it out. And once we've closed the proof of concept, we're going to close it off with some deliverables and outcomes. So the main deliverable of this proof of concept is really a case study. So together with the partners who are participating, we want to write a case study that, for one, explains the data marketplace itself. Secondly, it's really there to showcase the potential of the data marketplace in each industry. And most importantly, we really want to showcase what have we learned from this proof of concept, the do's and don'ts, and also kind of give an outline to the future and the potential of the data marketplace actually running in production. Something else that we are doing, so everything that we are developing under the IOTA Foundation is completely free to use and it's open source. With this data marketplace, we are also completely open sourcing the entire code base so that your developers can also benefit from it and also do some internal testing. What we will do with the code base is we're also going to document it properly, and we're also going to write a tutorial about it. So you can learn more about how each IOTA feature is actually being integrated into the data marketplace itself, so you can get a better understanding and overview of how to do something like that yourself in the future. And as we're already doing right now, we'll do several webinars during and after the workshop, during and after the proof of concept, to basically discuss together how to further go about the proof of concept and how to also share some of the experiences that we've learned. And we also intend to host a workshop. So right now we're still determining the official location of this workshop. It will most likely be in Berlin, but it will definitely be recorded, and we make it possible for people to also participate online. And something else that's very interesting about this demonstration is, because it's a public demonstration, we're going to write an activity report about it. So basically, the basic activity: how many people visited the website, how many people actually bought data, how much data was bought, and also the behavior on the website. And all of that will be published in a report that will be made available to all of the partners. So when it comes to the participation, there are 2 different ways to participate. Because this was kind of short notice, we give corporates and startups the ability to participate in 2 ways. The first and preferred way is obviously to participate as an official partner. What this means is that you will be publicly named as one of the official participants in the data marketplace, meaning that visitors and others will know that you're selling data in this data marketplace. Which also means that you will include it in a press release. And we can also, what we really want to do is we want to work together with some of the corporates to do some sector-specific thought leadership. So basically showcase how the data marketplace is relevant to the energy sector, to the mobility sector, smart cities, supply chain, and healthcare. I can also go beyond that. And what we mean with thought leadership here is that we want to write a blog post or a case study for each specific sector and industry together with a specific corporate partner. The other way to participate is as a silent participant. What this means is that you will be able to set up a sensor, and the sensor is always then going to sell data and going to earn money by selling that data, but you will not be publicly mentioned in any of the press releases, and you will also not be publicly mentioned in the website, on the website. The main reason why we offer this option to participants is because we want to give you an opportunity to have an insight into what the IOTA Foundation is really going to offer you in the future. Because right now we are ramping up our efforts to officially set up the IOTA Alliance, so there's going to be more opportunities for you to participate in these kind of co-innovation opportunities in the future. So lastly, before I hand over to Luis, I want to mention an upcoming co-innovation opportunity that we're currently setting up. So basically what we are setting up right now is this paper API use case. The focus here is to showcase how another micropayment business model based on this concept of concept of being able to pay per API request that you make to a database or to a service actually works. So this is obviously sector specific as well. The main reason why we set up this proof of concept is for banks. So because of PSD2, banks have to open up their internal databases, and with our application and with IOTA, banks can actually start having a revenue model out of that openness and out of being a platform. But there are also other relevant and sectors where this paper API use case makes a lot of sense, like for example in telco, but also in automotive. And if you're interested in participating in this, we definitely invite you to join in this opportunity. But we'll send you more information soon. So now I'm going to hand over to Lewis so that he will give you a technical deep dive into the data marketplace. Perhaps before I hand over, are there any quick questions from the business side of this? Feel free to just jump out and unmute yourself. Okay, I guess not. Perfect. All right, Lewis, it's your turn.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Anyway, so my name is Lewis Freeberg. I am a full stack developer at the IOTA Foundation. So my kind of role is to take the technologies that have been built by the core developers and kind of take them and turn them into public use cases that we've seen, the Satoshi Pay demo and the Flash demo, also the audit trail one, and really make it quite apparent what IOTA is about and how it's useful. So as, sorry, next slide. As Dom pointed out, the data marketplace is about being able to purchase real data from real sensors, from auditable streams from devices around the world. And so the two main technologies that facilitate this is IOTA's distributed ledger technology, the Tangle, and also the master authenticated messaging libraries that are being released. Dom will quickly run through the what the kind of demo will look like.
Yeah, so let me just quickly give you an overview of what the demo looks like. So this is a mock-up. You can go to this website actually if you want to try it out yourself in a browser. So this is still being refined right now for the public release next week. But basically what we're going to have here is we're going to have a map of the globe, the entire world, and people can then start seeing each sensor that is being offered by a specific company and specific startup. So you can then see the sensor, the owner of the sensor itself, the number of data entries, and the price. And also, most importantly, you can also see the type of sensor. The main focus of the data marketplace initially is really non-sensitive data. So we don't want you to sell your healthcare records, something like that. It should really be weather stations, environmental data, or even just positioning and stuff like that. Here's also a general overview of the different types of sensors. And the proof of concept is aimed to be super simple. So it's aimed at humans, right? So you can just go to the website, you can quickly see the type of sensors, the number of sensors, and then if you click on a sensor, you'll be redirected to the specific sensor page. You're required to purchase access. So when it comes to purchasing access, the way that we're facilitating this proof of concept is that it's a faucet. And what the faucet basically is when someone is visiting the data.tangle.works website, they are being associated to a unique identifier, and with that unique identifier, we're then giving them basically a token balance. So we are funding them directly with the wallet in the browser. And with that wallet in the browser, the user can then freely roam around and then buy data from these different sensors. So obviously this is micropayments. So the way that you can purchase access to these different sensors is in two ways. For one, you can purchase access to the entire data stream. So this means that it's kind of a subscription. So the sensor is continuously inputting data into the marketplace, and you're purchasing access to this entire data stream. So a subscription service. The second way to purchase access on the data marketplace is that you pay per data packet. So this means that you won't get access to the entire data stream itself, but you will be able to see just a single data packet, a single sensor recording from the machine. and he will then see the logos of the official partners, and that's basically it. And so just so you know, every kind of activity and every kind of click is all being tracked. So this is really useful for the activity report afterwards. Yeah, going back to you.
Cool. Yeah, sweet. So a bit more of a kind of an in-depth view of what sort of some of the features are. So we'll, for the public partners, we'll look to be able to sort the devices by company. So you guys will be able to show off what, if you have weather data or mobility data or anything like that, we'll be able to kind of put you in a category, and you'll be able to be seen as a group of sensors, and we'll be able to have people go to them and purchase them. So you'll be able to sort through all the different companies. We'll integrate a map into it, so you'll be able to kind of go in and zoom in on clusters and view the actual data, the information about the devices in real time on the map. So it gives you a bit more grounding in the real world, and people can kind of understand that. We'll also have a way of displaying live statistics. So as data packets come out, we're not going to be displaying the data, but we'll display, you know, how many packets in total since the start of the kind of marketplace, how many transactions have occurred, and how much in terms of value has been transferred, and the average transfer value, because it's quite unique that IOTA is able to, you know, send a fraction of a cent without any fees, which is quite cool. Additionally, yeah, as Dom described, you'll be able to buy per packet. So you can say, you know, I want the last 20 packets or the last 50 packets, and you'll get the means of decrypting that information and being able to display it in the browser. Or you'll be able to purchase sort of like a license or a continual update from the marketplace of the decryption keys for the full stream. So as the device pushes new data, everyone who subscribes to that will get the latest access to the data in real time, so that'll just appear in the browser. So when you go in to purchase a piece of data, you'll get anonymously logged into the website. You'll also get a wallet assigned to you, and so you can it'll be funded in browser, and then you'll be able to purchase directly from the browser and send those payments over the testnet out to the devices if the devices are listening, and then we will validate those transactions and make sure that they've occurred correctly, and we'll provide access in a centralized manner for this trial. But in the future, we'll look to be able to decentralize a marketplace like this. And yeah, so everything is happening in stream, sorry, in the browser, which is quite cool. And so if you go to that URL, you'll be able to see the.
Just real quick. So if you want to make a bet, you can make a bet with your competitor which sensor is going to sell more data. Yeah, because of those live statistics.
Cool. So the way that the proof of concept will be set out, so it's got 4 main components. We'll have the front end of the application and a server behind it. So the front end will really just serve to basically serve up the website and provide some of those IOTA functions. So they'll all be happening in browser. So the wallet, all of the MAMD decryption stuff will be happening in the browser, which is quite cool. The server will act to validate the bundles when you purchase, and then tell the database to provide access to the user that has purchased, so that they can decrypt the streams. The database will have public data as well as the private MAM keys, but it won't hold any of the data being generated by the devices. That'll all be in the Tangle, and that'll all be in masked authenticated messaging streams. Cool. And then the next one is the IoT devices. So these devices will push data in 2 ways. One will be pushing to the Tangle using MAM, and then the other one will be pushing the channel keys, which will allow for decryption to the database. And then finally, we've got the Tangle testnet, which we'll be using as the way to facilitate the transactions through the network. Yeah, just a bit more of a kind of an overview. So yeah, the web app will decode the streams in browser. You'll be able to purchase the keys from the server and the database. It'll have the IOTA wallet, and it will have all the user authentication happening in browser. Yeah, the server will validate the purchases and provide access to the routes. so this part can be oracleized. So this marketplace will be centralized around the server. But in the future, situations like this will be able to be decentralized, so there's no sort of single point of failure. And then for the routes, for the master authenticated message streams, public information, and that sort of stuff. And then finally, again, yeah, the sensor will push over HTTPS to publish data into the Tangle, and it will do so by interacting with a node that is in the testnet, and those streams will be pushed out, and proof of work will be done off the device on the node, and then it will also push the keys relating to that transaction to the database. And it'll also be able to watch for payment, but I'm not sure if we'll enable that feature to begin with, because we want to make it as simple as possible.
Yep.
So to give you an example of...
Let's quickly read some of the comments, because I saw some people that commented here.
Okay.
Before we jump further. Oh, David is answering in... Okay, that's perfect. So let's just do it like that.
Okay. Well, it would just continue then. Yeah, so to give you an example of some of the sensors that we've already got up and running. So we have something called the Ruby tag. This was I think it was a crowd-funded sensor, and it runs Node.js on it, which is quite cool. It has Bluetooth, and it has all these sensors built into it. So they've got an example. They have a blog post up, so if you want to search for it, you can go see it. They have an example of master authenticated messaging running on this device. It's fairly simple to set up, and it's a real life use case. We also have the Bosch example. So we've with Andreas, another one of the developers, we've got a demo running with the XDK pushing data live to the Tangle and being able to read that in real time and graph and do all that sort of stuff. So using the master authenticated messaging channels, we were also able to, as in this picture, we were also able to enable purchase of data. So the device was watching its wallet address, and when the right amount of IOTA comes in, say in intervals of 5, it provides access to X amount of packets. And so this was quite cool to see the data coming in.
And just to emphasize this point, this is another use case where we're using MAM in the browser itself. So when it comes to data that doesn't come from a hardware itself, but can come from a public API or private API, it can also work like that. So if you don't want to set up a sensor, you can also just sell data from your own databases or an API that you have access to, because everything runs in the browser as well.
Wonderful. So to be able to participate, so we'll be providing the libraries and the example code to be able to get this running on your device. We'll provide support to help you integrate these libraries. There shouldn't really be too much friction to get this working. We already have it working with the Bosch XDK, so we have all of that, the code running and that sort of stuff. So it'll really just be like a case-by-case basis, making sure it works on your devices. And then so for device onboarding, it'll be quite a simple process. Once you've got all of once you've got all the devices set up, you just have to go to a page on the data market, fill out the device information, what your company is, if you want to provide that. Then you provide information for the MAM stream, so where it starts and all that sort of stuff. And then if you want to have an address to monitor for payments, you can input the payment address, and users will send payments of test tokens to that device, to the address that you specify.
Yeah, exactly. And all that you really need to participate is a sensor that is connected. So a sensor that can submit data will already be able to participate in the data marketplace. So for example, some corporates are setting up a NetAtmo weather station because it's connected and can submit data via an API. That API data is then simply fed into the modules that we provide, and through that you're then able to participate simply. And we then provide you with a simple dashboard where you have a complete overview of how much your sensors are actually making and how much data they're selling.
Cool. And then so finally, just to kind of wrap it all up, so the marketplace is really a platform or a means for which everyone here can learn about how the IOTA Tangle works and how masked authenticated messaging works. It has some pretty big implications in terms of digital identity of things, so the way devices interact with each other and are able to communicate and act autonomously. This also demonstrates the ability for IOTA to do micropayments. It sounds too good to be true, but it really demonstrates that perfectly. You know, being able to purchase a single packet of data for a tiny fraction of a cent is really game changing. And yeah, so you'll be able to view different data streams and stuff. So what we're just providing the APIs for all the data exchange, and you know, when we provide the code bases, you'll be able to see how the payments work in the browser and how easy it is to integrate that sort of stuff. And we'll also help you one-on-one and be able to provide you guidance and get you to the point where your devices are on the data marketplace and selling data. Cool. So I think now I'm going to pass off to Paul, and he's going to give you a bit of an overview of how masked authenticated messaging works. Yeah. Paul? I think we lost it.
I think he has some technical difficulties.
Sorry, man. It's not unmuted. I'm saying it's not unmuted. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah.
We're
Sorry about that. It took a while for my microphone to decide it was going to unmute. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about how MAM works. So MAM stands for Masked Authenticated Messaging. So what that means is you have data that is encrypted and signed, and it's put onto the Tangle for data integrity. So you have these data streams, and you have kind of a short-term public key that changes as you move forward in time, so that you have perfect forward secrecy. So you have this thing where someone can jump in on your thing in the future, and they're not going to be able to look at past data. They're only going to be able to carry on from wherever you introduce them to the data stream. Dom, could we go to the next slide? So you have data subscribers. When they want to get into the data stream, you give them the public ID for that stream and an optional authentication key. So for them, when they want to go look at it, they're going to use that ID and that authentication key to efficiently decrypt and verify the integrity of the data. Could we go to the next slide? So these authorization keys are just effectively random. You're actually able to change these authorization keys, so you could revoke access. So this allows you guys to have subscription renewal. You can, but still have continuous identity for your devices, so that people who do renew know where to look for it, know that it's the same device that came from you. One of the unique things that's capable with masked authenticated messaging is that you can fork these channels. So you can be working on one, you can fork it into separate identities or what have you. So what we have here is on the top there you have this blue one that kind of carries on, and it's the main channel, and then this red one forks off at some point, and perhaps it's a different topic. Perhaps this is hierarchical data. You could imagine it as like even you could use it as a file system. This allows you to be able to have a single device, be able to manage a bunch of different streams and topics, or even on the bottom one, you could give people really short-term access to your data, as Dominic was talking about earlier with the selling of data, individual data packets. So another thing that you're able to do is with these authorization keys, you can give people fine-tuned access. So perhaps you want to be able to sell the temperature different from the humidity, so someone would have to purchase both of those, or perhaps even outside of the data marketplace in your own business data integrity use cases. But perhaps one of those things is geolocation, and you don't want the whole world to know your geolocation, but you want to be able to share other certain data that is necessary perhaps for integrity services, integrity of your data, for transparency or whatnot. So it enables you to be able to share parts of data, perhaps redact other parts, only share those with people who have special access. Do we have any questions?
No, I think so one thing to emphasize is that when it comes to MM, all of it is open source. So if you want to read up on it, you can just go on our GitHub and you can check out the whole documentation and the source code there. What we're doing right now with AM is we are completely finalizing the design of it, and then we are going to write a technical documentation and specification of the module itself, so you can also have another deep dive and read into it. So what we're doing right now, so this was the general overview of the data marketplace itself. So if there are any technical questions or also questions about how to participate itself, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, this is Edoardo from Italy. Hi, everybody. I have a technical question about the way and place where you store the different pieces of information, because we have seen an architecture. One of the slides were referring to the architecture where the sensors and the other devices store the information. What is not clear to me, I don't know if it's relevant or not at this point, is which kind of information goes in the Tangle and which kind of information goes in what you call the database, that, if I understand well now, so far it is going to be centralized.
Right. So that's a very good question. So one thing to emphasize here is that there's no database, there's no centralization. So all of the data itself is really being input into the IOTA Tangle itself. That is one of the unique aspects that I mentioned before. So as you know, in IOTA, I can show you what a typical transaction in IOTA looks like. Because when you have a transaction contains your signature. So that is when you transfer value. But when you don't transfer value, you have enough space where you can actually store roughly 1 kilobyte of data. So when it comes to tiny sensor readings like, hey, what's the current temperature, humidity, and so on and so forth, all of the data is input directly into the IOTA Tangle, which means that the Tangle now is for data integrity and data transmission as well. And for this use case, we're doing exactly that. So when someone else wants to get data from the data marketplace, they're actually getting the data directly from the IOTA Tangle. A specific example is this web browser example. So here we're basically storing the temperature and the gradient directly in the browser. Right now we're doing all of the necessary hashing, and all of this data is now being input into the IOTA Tangle. So this data set here has been directly read from the IOTA Tangle. And I can give you the example of what the transaction actually looks like. This loads. So this is now the encrypted data. So all of this is the encrypted data, the gradient and the temperature, and I've been able to directly read this and decrypt it in the browser. So that's quite beautiful. Any other questions?
Hello, hi, it's Gabriele Manno from Italy as well, the MVGL. I was wondering, how do you recognize, how do you assign a digital identity to a sensor?
Yeah.
Or a device?
So Luis, do you want to answer, or Paul?
Yeah. Okay. What we're really looking to use is the concept of the IOTA wallet. So we'll be using for the messaging streams and for receiving and sending value transfers. We'll be using the something called a seed, which is a random string of 81 characters. And what that does is that allows us to one, construct a wallet and send and receive IOTA from that. But secondly, it also integrates with the master authenticated messaging libraries and allows for the messaging streams to be signed in such a way that you can know that the messages coming from this stream is from this device. And so really it's all constructed around that single point where that's the only device that's able to publish to those streams. It's able to fork streams and do stuff like that. But from that point, you know that is the device you're talking to.
Klaus from Germany. Hello.
Hello, Klaus.
I don't understand when you put the data in the Tangle, it is not yet verified, isn't? Or is that a misconception of mine?
So the data, once you put it on the Tangle, you have signed that data. However, the integrity part, the guarantee that data happened, for example, before 5 o'clock on Tuesday, that does take some time for other transactions to verify your message to be able to bury it underneath more proof of work.
But you can still use it as a verified data, and you could still sell it even though it is not proven yet.
Yes.
So this is where someone else can say, hey, like I'm only going to buy this data if it has been fully agreed upon with the entire network. So this is basically consensus of a transaction when it has been confirmed by the network. So you as a data buyer can determine when you want to buy it. So to answer another question, does the device just push the data to the Tangle or the devices are in the Tangle? So that is up to you to decide. So because of the requirements of the IOTA Tangle, we also make it possible for Raspberry Pis to directly participate in this peer-to-peer network. The only main requirement there is really network connectivity. So because this is a peer-to-peer network, you're constantly sharing and passing along data. So if you can do that, you as a corporate, you can also decide to participate as a full node in this network. Other than that, what we will be doing is we are setting up this whole network infrastructure where the devices are then simply pushing the data to the Tangle. But you can decide how you want to participate.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, question here, Artiona speaking. So I assume the marketplace will result in a couple of companies sponsoring or contributing their sensor data in some way and then tipping transactions like in this buy and sell kind of interactions with other companies, so to say. Initially, they will kind of think about that kind of sensor data that maybe is mostly aligned with their business model or their expertise, current customers, and so on and so forth. So I can imagine this to result in a bunch of tipping transactions, and I'm wondering whether the data validity itself will influence the results, or whether you have any guidance for us to make this kind of marketplace come as closer to reality as possible, because this is like a completely new business model and we'll have to think a little bit how to make the most out of it.
Right. So one thing to emphasize is that data validity is a very, very difficult topic. And that is not solved by distributed ledgers mostly, but it is something that we are trying to figure out how we can actually solve that in a decentralized way via a higher level protocol on top of the data marketplace and on top of IOTA itself. But just to emphasize this point, when it comes to the data marketplace, we don't really want you to sell sensitive data. So most of the time, most of the participants here are always a part of an innovation lab. So you can just set up a weather station in your innovation lab, and through that you're already participating and you're selling data. But we leave it up to you which data you want to submit. Yes?
Yes, that's clear, Dominic. But I don't want this to result in purely testing of the scalability of IOTA, because I'm sure that that is there, that's for granted. Like, rather this should help make companies understand what kind of business models they can actually make out of this marketplace. Like, this will, if this is done not mindfully, this will end up in just pure scalability testing and stuff like that.
Right, but this is really not scalability testing. This is really testing around a whole new concept of a business model, right? And so the business model itself is agnostic to the data. The business model is agnostic to the data. That's the main point that we want to drive here, which is why you can participate with any data set that you have. Because at the end of the day, the purchasers of your company, they always want to have specific data sets for you to buy from you. But when it comes to this proof of concept,
one last final remark. So for huge companies where we'd have to tap into the IoT organization, and that maybe would take some time, are there actually some kind of articles or like models around IoT or machine to machine, like, despite the fact that I did a little bit of research, that you could actually recommend so that we speed up this process of setting up sensors and doing transactions and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. So what we'll do is we'll provide you with a standard set of devices that you can easily participate with. Like, for example, the Bosch XTK sensor or this Rubitech are already able to participate. And we're also providing a standard set of modules for Raspberry Pis. So you can simply connect the sensor to that. But we'll provide you with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, hey guys, this is Kevin here.
Hey.
Hey, can I see that slide again with the timeline? Yeah. So yeah, my question is, once the proof of concept phase got close, like, what are the next steps? Like, let's say that the proof of concept went well. Will you open this data marketplace up more, like announce it to the public, and then let anyone like register?
So this is really just a proof of concept, so a demonstration, because we want to facilitate this collaboration between corporates. And what we will be doing is we're going to completely open source the entire code base, so that then other participants and other interested parties can do with it what they want. The IOTA Foundation doesn't run startups, right? Because we are simply there to facilitate this co-learning and co-creation. So then we leave it up to partners to come together and further take the concept to production readiness or to the next level.
Okay.
Hi guys, this is Ilan from the Netherlands. I have a question about modules that will be published for the devices. Like, I want to contribute as well, like, to the data. But like, where can we find them, the documentation and the modules for instance, like a Raspberry Pi?
Yes, so that is what we're going to provide to you over the next few days. Those modules are going to be quite agnostic, so you can input it in any data stream. And what the module is basically going to do is going to do the hashing and the inputting of the data into the data marketplace. Right now, we're finishing up the data marketplace itself, so we will know the API endpoints very soon, and then we're going to provide you those modules. So we're going to make a follow-up to everyone, basically. So what I encourage, just one last point, what I encourage corporates and participants to do over the next few days is to perhaps figure out what kind of data and what kind of sensors you want to utilize to participate. Because that makes it easier for us to then also help you out and give you one-on-one support.
Hi, this is John. I was wondering what the technical requirements for the modules supporting MAM are.
Paul, do you want to answer that?
Is that as far as memory and whatnot is concerned?
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's, in order to make a message, you need to have, I think, at least 10K of memory available to run the whole signing process and whatnot. But you're actually, if you're doing it perhaps in a broker model, you could have a second device if you have sensors that are extremely limited in their in the memory that they have available. You could have a broker device that handles the generation of the transactions for your devices. We've had some discussions, and we might have in the future an alternative for the extremely limited devices so that they can participate a little more fully. Those that only have maybe 1K of memory available. But I think 10K of memory is efficient. We should be able to knock that down to, I think, 5K with a few optimizations.
And in terms of the broker itself, what sort of horsepower is required to run the MAM?
I mean, if you have, for example, like a 32-bit, like a 32-bit Cortex M or something like that, it should be able to handle that just fine. Even a Raspberry Pi. The only thing that actually really costs anything in terms of CPU is when the device has to do the proof of work necessary for the anti-spam to get it on the Tangle. And that could also be, you could also have a service to do that for you. That service would not need to have any sensitive data.
Ms. Klaus, I would like to better understand how you could buy the data if you are interested in them.
Yeah, so that's actually also very, very simple. So you just go to the website and you just choose the sensor that you want to buy the data from. And so, as I mentioned before, the way that this works is that every time someone visits the website, we give them a unique wallet. And that wallet, in the browser, you can then start purchasing the data from all of these different sensors. If you want to have a live demo of how this is going to work for the data marketplace, go to satoshipay.tangle.works. Because we're doing exactly the same thing. So basically, when you visit the website, you then have a wallet in your browser. And with a browser wallet, you can then start purchasing access to those different articles. And it's the same here. You just go to the website, you see a sensor that you want to buy from, and you just click a button. And then the transaction is automatically made on the IOTA Tangle network.
Where do you see prices, or when prices are changing? How can you see that?
So you can see that on the website itself. So these numbers here are going to change constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if the device decides to, I'm not sure if this is the scope of the first version of the marketplace, but if you want, you might be able to send the database from the device, send it an update saying, okay, it was 1 cent, now it's 3 cents. If you'd like, that change will be represented in the front end, and accordingly, payments will be adjusted when a user goes to purchase it.
So what kind of data do you expect? You said temperature and stuff like that. Is there anything else which you expect, which will be on the sides there?
For example, if a trash can is full or not, some companies are selling that kind of data. There was also some kind of I can give you a full list of some of the sensor data that others are selling, but we actually encourage corporates to mostly do environmental data, because this way they don't have to go through any internal processes to get the approval. Because selling environmental data has a huge benefit and is simple to acquire as well.
Hello, this is Franz from Stuttgart.
Hi, Franz.
Could you imagine to use parking space data for this marketplace?
Yeah, that's an awesome idea.
So that's one of the main reasons why we also built this data marketplace. Because, for example, now we have a vehicle and the sensors in the vehicle are able to determine, hey, like here's a parking spot that is free. And the vehicle is then able to sell that data on demand on this data marketplace. I'm not sure if any of the OEMs or suppliers that we work with are willing to sell that data already, but I think this is a perfect opportunity to try it out, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yes, this is Eduardo again. Are there going to be APIs also for receiving the sensors from data in case we want to try some automatic means of changing the behavior of a device? So it's not a manual, because we have seen the manual procedure on the web, but and it requires authentication and the confirmation of payments and stuff like that. Is it everything? Are there APIs that are available to implement this in an automatic way?
So what we would have to do is that we would have to set the proper authentication for the API. But I think that would be like a second follow-up use case where we can do the paper API use case. We definitely want to open it up and make it queryable so that machines can easily say, hey, I want to buy this and that data set, and I'm willing to pay this much money. But for this proof of concept, we're still trying to figure out if we should open up a public API as well. But we'll give you an answer by the end of the week, most likely. We definitely are thinking about that as well. So it's not just a website, but you can also make a query. And through that, automatically make a payment.
Okay, thank you.
But the main reason why I'm saying that is because it's a different architecture. Because also what we're doing here is it's simply to assign a wallet to the user and give the wallet a balance. When it comes to doing an API query, you would also have to do it from the terminal. And there we don't have any access to it. Yeah, but we'll figure it out and we'll let you know.
Thomas here. I have a question about the protocol implementation itself. Does it provide consensus?
Yeah.
Are you talking about data consensus or transaction consensus or what?
Transaction in case of like the distributed ledger.
Yes, it does. It's as opposed to blockchain, where it's kind of a global synchronous consensus. The consensus model of IOTA is asynchronous eventual consistency type of consensus. So you'll know that a set of transactions happened in the same way on the block as it does on the blockchain before a certain time, as you know, as that's referenced in the main graph.
Yeah, exactly. So basically,
at what point do I have confidence that I don't have double spending, for example?
There's no double spending problem here.
What'd you say?
Well, you wanted to say something?
No, I just wasn't sure if I was hearing what you were saying or not. The way that you know that you don't have double spending is if you look at the white paper, it talks about an adaptation period. So I guess in short, it's at a certain period it becomes infeasible to bring a second dishonest subgraph in that's going to have a double spend, because the assumption is that you're not going to have more than 1/3 of the power of the rest of the network to be able to bring in a dishonest transaction.
Yeah, so basically here you see a live visualization of the IOTA Tangle network. And when your question to consensus, it's mentioned mathematically also in the white paper how after the adaptation period, it's impossible to reverse a transaction. So this transaction can contain value, so where you send a token so that you know it's not a double spend, but it can also contain data so that you have this full tamper-proof data set. And in this use case that we're doing here, we're doing exactly the same thing, where for example, this simple transaction here contains data, and after a certain number of transactions have continued to reference it, it has become completely tamper-proof, and you, through that, basically get the data integrity. So to simply answer your question, yes, this is all consensus-based. And IOTA has so far enabled more than $6 billion to be transferred without any double spends. So it works.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Thomas?
I believe so. I guess the keyword is eventually consistency.
Exactly. Are you familiar with the blockchain model of consensus?
Yes.
So in the blockchain, you wait for maybe like 6 blocks before you actually accept a transaction that was already mined. In a similar way with IOTA, you wait for an adaptation period to be ended.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are correct from the cap theorem sense. We are using eventual consistency. That is the way.
We were using eventually consistency to our advantage to achieve scalability. So if you want to have a quick overview of this concept, you can also read the blog post called A Primer on IOTA, where we mentioned this eventual consistency. So this graph basically describes it. But there's also some videos online about it that explains it.
Good, thanks.
Hello, this is Ruby. Can you please talk about the killer applications that are going to run on the data market?
So the killer applications. It's up to you to determine that, I guess. So definitely parking is one of those use cases. But what we make it possible for this proof of concept is that you can decide the data that you're going to sell to determine what you're going to do with that data. I think one of the very interesting things about this data marketplace is that we make it possible for corporates to sell raw data. Other participants in the marketplace can then buy that raw data, analyze it, and then sell that packaged data to someone else. I think that really creates some new dynamics to these relationships in the data marketplace. But overall, we're still trying to we're open for you to determine the data that you're selling and the kind of services that you want to offer through it.
Yeah, this is Kevin again. I'm just also going to throw out another potential use case. We can have like a drone, and then we can like attach whichever sensors we want to the drone, and then the drone can go to like areas that may not be traveled by humans or like cars, and then the drone could collect that different like sensor data.
Yeah, me and David were actually discussing some nanosatellite use cases some time ago. So the nanosatellites are specifically focused on imaging. And from that imaging, you can obviously derive a lot of data from, including if a parking slot is free or not. And it would be very, very interesting to do such a use case with the data marketplace. So if you have a drone, you should definitely try this out. It would be fun, I think. Make sure it has an IOTA logo on it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to get a drone. Play around with it.
That's quite awesome. Yeah. All right. So I think we're really good on time. So are there any more questions? I'll quickly wrap it up and tell you guys what the next steps are, basically. Yeah. So I think, hello?
Yeah, so it's Abdullah. I had a question about the integrity of data. Like, how do you ensure that data that are registered on the Tangle, that are on the Tangle, are really not wrong? Like, if I have my sensor, which is not working, for example, and the data so I'm getting are wrong, how do you ensure that these kind of data are not registered in the Tangle?
So that hardware issue is something that, of course, a distributed ledger itself does not resolve automatically. That needs a higher level protocol, which we call identity of things. And we are working on that with several different companies and organizations. But that's a step further down in terms of ensuring hardware integrity as well. So you should see this as the first step towards complete data integrity.
Yeah, but so when it comes to the data transmission, there's no way to do a man-in-the-middle attack or something like that, because also the data is input into the IOTA Tangle, and from there it has been made tamper-proof. So now we gain this end-to-end verifiability, because now you tell another partner and say, hey, like, hey, there's this distributed ledger. I give you this access key to my data stream, and the other party knows the data integrity, because the data has been tamper-proof, and the data authenticity, because only that specific sensor has this private key with which they can input data into the Tangle. And from there, you gain this new trust relationship out of it. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Is there another question?
Yeah, one more question from me, Eduardo. In the model that you described here, it looks like putting data into the Tangle is free and getting data from the Tangle has a cost. Is that a kind of model that you're going to propose for the general use of the Tangle, or is it just a coincidence, or is it wrong and I didn't understand well?
Exactly. So this is just a use case of a data marketplace, because we want to showcase how sensors can sell data. But mass authenticated messaging is a very, very powerful module that you can use for any data that you want to make secure. And you can then also share this for free with other parties. So for example, we do a lot in supply chain where we use mass authenticated messaging to basically have this chain of custody of a product that is being shipped along the supply chain. And also all of the data is made available for free. So you can decide if you want to sell the data or if you want to make it for free.
But in any case, writing the data to the Tangle is free.
Yeah, and reading as well.
Okay.
Yes.
So the entire point here is indeed to create a data marketplace with this specific use case. That's the only reason for this use case, but that's because 99% of data that is generated by companies get lost to the void because there is no incentive to share it. So via these microtransactions, you finally have an incentive to actually share data, and we believe that will open up like the floodgates in terms of sharing of data, which, like Dominic mentioned, then you can do analytics on it, and then you can sell the information that you have extracted from the data, and so on and so on and so on. So that's why we are doing this proof of concept.
Yeah. And this is obviously a completely new business model for companies, because obviously all of the corporates have so much data that is untapped that they don't use themselves. So with this data marketplace, you gain a completely new revenue stream that you can really benefit from. And the IOTA Foundation is basically there to facilitate this first progress towards figuring out what works and what doesn't when it comes to data marketplaces and selling data on a micropayment basis. Yeah. So I think I'll wrap it up now. So thanks everyone for participating. There was a lot more visitors than I had expected, so that's really tremendous. So what we're going to do is we're going to put up this video. It was also fully recorded. We're going to put it up on YouTube. And we're also going to send you a follow-up over the next few days with the next steps on how to concretely participate and to hook up your sensors to the data marketplace. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us. We're basically accessible 24/7, and we're more than happy to help you with one-on-one integration with your sensors. Thanks, everyone.